All right, thank you everybody for coming. My name is Craig DiCarlo with Left Field. We are going to start, sorry for the little bit of delay. We are here to talk about the Fallbrook Elementary School project. We do have Spanish and Portuguese language translation services available. I'll let them tell us that in Spanish and Portuguese.
Buenas noches, soy Nerida Rodríguez y si quieren translación en español, estoy aquí.
Boa noite, meu nome é Gustavo. Se precisares de algum serviço de intérprete, estou aqui para servi-lo. Alguém precisa de serviço de interpretação em português?
¿Alguien necesita ayuda en español?
All right, to start things off, I see Mr. Mayor is here. Mr. Mayor, would you like to call the building committee meeting to order for
Yes,
us?
I call it 6 o'clock. I call the new school building committee, Fallbrook School Committee to order.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Mayor, would you like to give an opening or anything to start us off?
I'm really excited to see the presentation. So, I'll just jump in whenever.
All right, love it, love it. Superintendent Desmond, any opening words that you would like to make?
Just welcome and thanks for coming to listen to the presentation tonight.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, so narrator, would you please advance the slide? So while Narray is working on that, okay, awesome, thank you. And you can go on to the next one. And so as I mentioned, Craig DiCarlo with Left Field, Owner's Project Manager. I'm joined with Linda Laporto over there in the gray top. And we're also joined by the design team, members from the design team, Nareda Rodriguez, Daniel Cho, and Erica Patton. You can go to the next slide. And one more. So we're going to start things off with just a little recap of some stuff that we talked about last time, the MSBA process. So this project is a partnership between the district, which is the city, Leominster Public Schools, and the Fallbrook Building Committee, and MSBA. So both are going to be contributing funds to the project. And as a part of that is we have to go through the MSBA process. There will be 3 contracts that are held by the city, by the district. The first one is my office, my firm. The second one is the design team, and the third is the eventual contractor, which will be competitively bid about a year from now. Next slide, please. One thing I forgot to mention was there is an opportunity for questions and answers at the end of this presentation. We're going to try to get through as quick as we can. So please do hold your comments and questions till the end. At that time, anyone who's got a question, we'll put a microphone out here and we'll just have a line. If somebody can't stand in line, just raise your hand, we'll hold your spot, and then we'll bring a mic to you. And then if there's anything that we can't answer tonight, we'll put it on the website, or there's a meeting, another one of these meetings in March. All right, next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry, back up. So the MSBA process is a series of steps, or they call them modules. Right now, we are in the schematic design module, almost at the end of it. We anticipate that's going to wrap up in April, and then after that, we've got the remainder of design, then construction, and then completing the project. Go ahead, Narita. And what that looks like is we're at that red arrow there in early 2025.
This is the proposed site plan. It calls for a new 1- and 2-story building built adjacent to this structure right over there. And it will have new parking, playgrounds, and all sorts of site amenities. For those of you who weren't here last time, the design team did go through an extensive process of selecting where this building should be on the site. And I should point out that there are some significant limitations, both with the topographic features, but also there's the wetlands, the floodplain, and then the wood turtle, which is a protective species, and that we had to stay out of that habitat. So all the various different options, so the area where we ended up was pretty much the only one in this area that was sizable enough to house the new building. And so the design that we developed on this site is, as I mentioned, a 1- and 2-story scheme. We did study reusing the existing building and an addition renovation project. The addition was significantly the renovation was significantly undersized based on modern MSBA standards, and the new and addition renovation was not cost effective, nor was it ideal for the educational program that the district is looking for. So we did settle on a new construction. For those who were here last time, it's very similar. We have not changed the design, but we have refined it and made it more fine-tuned based on the input from the school and the district. But for a brief recap, it's the lower part that you see is the 1-story structure. That has most of the public uses, the cafetorium, the gym, the main entrance, main office. And the idea is that that piece can be used off hours, weekends, when school's not around, by the public. This will be usable by members of the communities for many different events, while being able to lock off the back half, which is the main classroom building. It's a classroom bar on the first floor. It's for the younger kids and the smaller kids, so kindergarten, first and second. And then the connection piece between the main bar and the public space are where all the specials, the art, the STEM, the media center. And so that piece there links the public and the classroom bar with some really special activities. And then on the second floor, which is again only on the classroom bar piece, we have the higher grades, 3, 4, and 5. Those are the testing grades. So it's a nice separation that way. And it has the library as well. As you can see, the blue is the main general purpose classrooms. Interspersed, sort of the pink color is the special ed programs, and I think it was very important for the district and the administration, well, everyone, that the special ed spaces are intermixed with the general population, so there isn't a zone or a special area, that it's really one building, one student body, and sort of one educational. So, as I mentioned, it's very similar to what we presented last time, but it has been refined. Next. So this is sort of an example of some of the documents we're producing. It's sort of like getting in depth with each one of the classroom types, the teachers who teach there, the admin, sort of what's needed, what sort of electrical, mechanical, plumbing services are required, and any sort of the built-in equipment. So getting to that sort of detail and putting together that document, which will be part of the submission to the MSBA in end of February, and that the MSBA will vote on, just to make sure, and they will review to make sure that they think we have accommodated for everything, and we're looking forward for approval. So I guess, so that's essentially what we've been doing, and another sort of exciting piece, which Erica will be speaking about, is sort of the design piece, sort of not just the plans and the equipment, but certainly we have taken an approach to the look and feel and the design of the building, and Erica can talk to some of those pieces.
So we wanted to show you all just a few images of what some of the interior spaces of the building could look like. And we do want to mention that we're really just trying to understand the quality of the space and the natural light, and a lot of the materials and colors have not been selected yet. We'll have a really thorough process with the school to understand what colors are important to them and what colors and materials are important for the student body. But we wanted to show you a few preliminary images. So here is the main lobby when you first come in the front door of the school. To the left there, you see a doorway which leads you into the administration suite. So they have full eyes on who's coming in and out of the building at all times for a really safe and secure entrance. The other door sort of in the back left corner is the cafeteria. As Daniel had mentioned, it'll be right up front for community use to use the building. And in the front there, the sort of curved piece, we are looking at duplicating the koi pond because we know it's a really important piece to the student body and the administrators here. So another one of the spaces that we're looking at is the cafeteria space. We know that will be really important for community use. And in here we're trying to get as much natural light as possible. Those windows up front face north, so it's a really beautiful diffuse light coming into this space without overheating the space too much. We're looking at using natural materials like wooden structure in the ceiling and really making a warm and beautiful space for the student body. Something else we're looking at is creating pockets of space within these larger environments, like these booths, little booth built-ins on the end, to help students who might be overwhelmed in a large space have a smaller, more comfortable space that they could be a part of the larger community without feeling overwhelmed. Here is the top of that main stair. So the center of the building, as Daniel had mentioned, is a sort of connection between the student bar and the community spaces, and that's where all of the specials are, so art, STEM, music, and this is a really, again, bright and happy, welcoming space. We're exploring with the school visual connections to all the spaces while keeping in mind security and safety, while also helping to put education on display throughout the building. And then the last one we wanted to show was the Library Media Center, which is up on the second floor. And again, a similar quality to what we're trying to achieve in the cafeteria downstairs with northern-facing light, a lot of really beautiful, bright spaces, and exploring, again, visibility to the corridor to put the education on display. Now Narita's going to go through some of the exterior design.
Thank you, Erica. So the team has been working on what are the different volumes for the building. So what you see in this is sort of an axonometric view or a three-dimensional view of the entire building, where the front face, or where the entrance is a one-story building with the main office and the nurse's office, and then to the right of the entrance is the gymnasium. Then to what you see on the windows that are sort of tucked back from the one-story part of the building are those windows that Erica just showed you in the cafeteria. So again, that natural light coming into the cafeteria, it has no glare and will feel more pleasant. And the other thing that we're looking at is exploring different materials to break the volume or the size of the school. So we still have a lot of brick on the building, and then interspersed with windows, but we're starting to look at how we can sort of change either the color or the pattern on the wall in order to create these pillars that are accentuated by the windows between, and then having lighter color in the middle. And then on the classroom side, on the second floor, we're starting to think about, if you have a metal ceiling, can you bring some of that same metal material onto the wall, so it starts to sort of break that two-story space into different, feel a little different. And then the gable roofs also were sort of representative of where you are. You know, you have a beautiful site here in Fallbrook. The natural beauty here is what we're trying to bring back into the school with the wood and the gable roofs. So this is sort of a close-up of that entrance. It's really important to protect the teachers and the principals who are out there at pick up and drop off every day. So the main entrance is closest to the drop off for the parents that are by car, and then the school buses are adjacent to it on the other side. So having a canopy sort of protecting them during the bad weather is really important. Again, having a little bit of glass into the gym, but high up enough so that it doesn't bother the students who are playing inside. Next. And then this is sort of a facade or sort of a two-dimensional view again of the building. So you start looking at the building, sort of breaking down those volumes so it doesn't feel like a big box for them to see. I do have to say, like everybody in the team said, we're still sort of working on the design. This is still very preliminary. We'll work on this some more. And then we haven't shown the parking and some of the other amenities that are on the site in these three-dimensional views, which we'll show at another phase. All right, so then we're going to talk about sustainability a little bit, and I'll try to go through these really quick. So we'll go through the overall goals of the project. We've been discussing this with the building committee and the working group that we meet with on a weekly basis. We'll go through the MSBA Green School program, which we're required to meet, and then some quick overview of materials and give you a peek at what the LEED or scorecard looks like. So overall sustainability, so I mean, for me, sustainability encompasses everything, right? So making sure our students are well taken care of and that they have the best learning environment where they can thrive is a lot of what we do as sustainable architects. It's about the human, it's about the person, right? How to make sure the person feels safe and healthy in the environment that they're in. So one of the things we talk about is protecting the natural environment where we're in, obviously Fallbrook and all the turtles and the habitats that are within here, but it's also celebrate the beauty. Celebrate the beauty that you have here in Leominster and on this site. Reducing energy consumption, reducing water use, and improving air quality for the students. Those are all things that we are thinking about as we're selecting materials, what kind of mechanical systems we're going to put in the building, and what are the things that improve the learning environment so that the teachers don't have to worry about these things. One of the things we did for the design of the school is also orient the building so that it maximizes daylight. So we have the building oriented so that the classroom building is mostly, it's a little bit twisted, but it's mostly facing south so that most of the windows get nice natural light, and like we talked about in the other side of the building will be the northern light. So trying to capture that as much as possible. And minimize the usage of electric lighting during the day. So the MSBA school program, so the MSBA has been, over the years, thinking about what are ways that we can improve the environments of the schools that they're in. There's been a lot of changes over the years, and also we have a new energy code for Massachusetts, which Leominster is part of as a green community. So we have to abide by the rules of the MSBA. So one of the requirements is that you have to meet either LEED or CHIPS requirements. So we're going to be going with the LEED rating system, and we have to be at least LEED silver as a minimum for a school. And then we have to meet the updated stretch code, which we will be doing. And then the general laws, there's also requirements about the kind of materials for window shades and other upholstery that are state law at this point. And then, next slide. So one of the requirements as part of the Green Schools program is to improve the kind of materials that are installed in the school. So there's three different, there's two different categories: material health and indoor air quality, and you have to at least have 3 points out of the 7 that are possible in LEED. And at this point, we're targeting 4 to 5 points. And this is the LEED checklist. Like I mentioned, we're sort of targeting LEED silver. Right now, we're at 58 points. and there's some additional maybe credits that we can sort of look for, and so we're analyzing those credits to see if we can bring that up to a gold without increasing the cost, and obviously maintaining the best quality of the materials that we install in the building. So the ones that are highlighted are those 3 categories that I mentioned earlier. Have to be, you have to meet at least 3 of those points, including low emitting materials, improving indoor air quality, and the selection of the materials have to have transparencies. So that's it for sustainability. I'm going to hand it back to Craig.
Thank you, Nareda. All right, Daniel, would you please advance to the next slide? So we're going to talk a little bit about money tonight. We don't have the cost of the project yet, but I'm going to give you a little bit of advanced peek at where that's going. So we're still working on that project cost. Actually, right now, the cost estimators are reviewing the design documents, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. We have another one of these meetings in March. And at that meeting, we will have for you the estimated construction cost, the estimated total project cost, and the city's funding strategy. Beyond that, in April 30th, MSBA Board of Directors will have a meeting, and hopefully this project will be voted on. And at that point, we'll have the MSBA's maximum grant amount, and thus also understand what the city's share of the project cost is. Next slide, please. When we talk about project costs, there's different terms that are used, but the most important one is total project cost. That's the cost for everything. We've got hard costs, also known as construction costs, and that represents about 75% of what a building project will cost. And then we've got soft costs, which is furnishings, equipment, computers, professional services, and that represents about 25% of the total. Next slide, please. So in that 75% piece of the pie, those hard costs, we've got 2 independent cost estimators currently working on reviewing the design documents, and based on their knowledge of the market, plus escalation for, to get us from today's dollars to when we're doing construction, plus some contingencies for things, unknowns that always come up. They're putting those together right now, and then next week we're going to compare those and reconcile them. Make sure that they are both representing the same scope of work. And that process gives us a really good understanding of what the construction cost is going to be. So much so that that's what the MSBA bases their agreement with the city on. Next slide, please. Soft costs, that was that 25% piece of the pie. The way we come up with that is that the OPM team, based on our experience on other projects, assigns values to all of the different costs that we know are going to be in there. Many of them are just a percentage of that hard cost, but then we'll adjust them based on the particulars of your project. Next, please. So, once we've got that, now we've got to get our total project budget. So the district is going to submit, with the help of their design team and OPM, submit the project scope, what the project is, and the schedule to the MSBA. We'll give them those hard cost and soft cost estimates, and then they have a very sophisticated calculation that they run, their project management team, and that will yield how much they're going to contribute and how much the city is going to fund. That information is in that April 30th meeting. That's going to be what the Board of Directors votes on, and that's called the Project Scope and Budget Agreement. And within that, we'll have our total project budget and the maximum grant amount. Next slide, please. So how is it that the MSBA determines that they're, what they're going to put in? So as I mentioned, they've got this detailed spreadsheet where all those factors and all those estimates get plugged into. They look at each cost, whether it's something that they're going to participate in fully at the full reimbursement rate. There are some costs that they'll do the reimbursement rate up to a certain cap, And there are some costs that are just ineligible for reimbursement. An example of that is, swing space. If you had to build like a temporary building to move the students into, that's something that's ineligible. So they do that on their end, and then they bring that back to the district, and the district will have to take action on it. Next slide, please. So there we have, again, that total project cost. MSBA grant covers a large portion of it. There are a couple other opportunities. Mass Save is one of them. MSBA Green Schools program is another one. And then the remainder is what the district or the city will pay for. Next slide, please. So again, just to recap, in March, we'll have the estimated construction cost, the estimated total project cost, and the funding strategy. And then after April 30th, we'll have the MSBA maximum grant amount and the city's share of the cost. And all that information we'll put on the website so that everyone can take a look at it. Next slide, please. Okay. So one more slide. So in a moment, we're going to do some questions and answers. But tonight is not your only opportunity to give project feedback or ask questions. We've got, as I mentioned, another meeting in March, and we've got our website, which has a frequently asked questions page on it. There's an email address. You can send us any questions or comments, and we'll review them with the team, and then we'll post our response. One more slide. Okay, so now we're at questions and answers. So what we would kindly request is that, so everyone can hear, we'll put a microphone up here. And narrator, would you turn that one on? I don't want to cause feedback. So anyone's got a question or comment, we would ask that you keep it to 3 minutes or less. We'll do our best we can to answer it right now. But if there's anything, like I said, that either we can't answer right now or we want to take back and review it with the building committee, then we'll either talk about it at the next meeting or put it on the website or both. So, the microphone is open. And again, if anyone can't stand, you raise your hand and we'll figure out a way. We are tethered here, but we'll figure something out. Fantastic.
Hello, my name is Jan McDaniel, and I live on Lakeshore Drive along Lake Samoset. And I want to congratulate you. That is one beautiful building, just from the schematic of it. My main concern is what's going to be done for erosion control and things that are going to protect Fallbrook. You did mention something like that. I wasn't here in '96, but I'm told by my neighbors that when Samoset School, shortly after Samoset School was built, there was some kind of a severe weather event, and some newly fertilized soil got washed down into Fallbrook and did some damage, to the surrounding environment. So if you could be more specific about how you're going to protect Fallbrook with this project, both during the construction phase and then after. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about maybe the end product? During construction, there's the Stormwater Pollution Protection Program. SWIP is the acronym, and that is we take the project before the Conservation Commission. And the Conservation Commission gives us kind of the rules of, while you're doing construction, this is what you need to do to prevent runoff from the construction site from polluting Fallbrook and the surrounding areas. And so we'll get that list, and then the design team will add that into the contract documents. And so then the contractor will be responsible for doing all those things on the list, and there'll be a person who's assigned to check on those, make sure it's being done. And that's part of the DEP. I think Mass DEP is what requires that. There'll be a Mass DEP application that the contractor has to do, so the construction site will be registered with them. What else? Any other thoughts? And then maybe, and come on over, I don't want to make interference, but maybe you can speak to the finished product.
Right. So I'm not a civil engineer, so I'll do my best to respond to your question, because I think it's a really important question. So all the water that's coming off the building and off the parking lot will be collected. We're gonna have infiltration systems that are going to be going under the parking lot. And those have to filter the water before it gets spread, released to any natural waterway. We will also have rain gardens and retention basins. So there's like different natural systems that will be designed as part of the landscape, and the civil engineer are working on that. Our civil engineer also is very aware of the protection of not only the Fallbrook, but also the turtles, and making, we have to, as we mentioned earlier, we can't build too close to the Fallbrook as well. There's 100-foot setbacks that we have to maintain at least. So there are sort of natural ways that we sort of filter systems before it gets out there. We do have a big hill there next to Samoset, so we'll have to, as we design the entire site, we will also be looking at ways to make sure that there is no major runoff going on the hill that will sort of, as you mentioned, seem to have happened before, could pollute the Fallbrook. That's a very good question. Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on up.
This is Chikari from Willow Street. Excellent presentation. I like the green and all the technology that's being added. How much video surveillance now is added to schools as they're being built from scratch? Every classroom, security.
You guys want to speak to that?
So
So security of the building once it is complete. So during construction, the general contractor will be responsible for security of the construction site. And then this building will be functioning as it is during that time. But then when the new building's all done.
right, so video surveillance usually happens in the public areas of the building, right? So in the corridors, in the main office, certain areas, there's privacy issues in some schools. A lot of the kindergarten classrooms, all the kindergarten classrooms have toilet rooms. A lot of those toilet rooms are typically open because of the little kids. So there are sort of certain limitations as to where surveillance cameras can be installed outside of the building. They'll also be installed. It's also going to be an intrusion because we have, just like you have now at the first stories, you usually have intrusion prevention systems. So there'll be an alarm if something goes, somebody's trying to enter the building from the outside. In the stairwells, outside of areas where there's privacy, you can't put those in. So, does that answer your question? We haven't developed the plan yet where all the cameras are gonna go.
And so what those cost estimators are looking at now is they know there's a system. They've got maybe a brief narrative, and then they use their experience on other similar schools to apply a price to that. And then, the eventual system will be bid out, and we've got those kids. Well, anyway, so that's how it works.
I could talk from here on long enough.
Fantastic.
Traditionally, Leominster in the past, when the schools have done, the average is 70% reimbursement from MSBA. The other night at the council meeting, the question came up, and it seems that their new formulas, that would translate to 40%. Do you feel that that's accurate? And what kind of an effect does that have on city funding? We're talking 70 to 40, that's a big difference.
Yep. So in case anyone didn't hear, the question was about the MSBA's reimbursement rate. And so yes, they have let's say a paper reimbursement rate, which they, right now for the feasibility study is 74.01%. And there's a big calculation they use to come up with that. They will take another look at that for this next round, which will take us through construction. But yes, you've got a paper rate, and then you've got the effective rate. One of the things I had mentioned briefly was they look at each cost. Some of them they'll participate in that, let's say it's 74%. Some they'll say, we'll do 74%, but only up to a certain cap. Site cost is an example. I think it's 10% now. They'll only go up to 10% of the site costs. And then there'll be some things that they won't participate in at all. So you can take all those numbers and you crunch them, and then you'll come up with the effective rate. And what Left Field's experience is the effective rate is about 55% of that paper rate. And it varies a little bit by, each school's a little different. But when we're doing our kind of back of the napkin calculations, that's what we use. So we say 74% times 55%, and that's kind of the range that you can anticipate. And that's the same for all schools. So schools that are only getting 20%, same thing. You can kind of apply that 55% factor to it. Schools that MSBA maxes out at 80%, same thing. You apply that 55%, and that's sort of the range that they'll get, that you'll get.
Is that a hard and fast commitment at the beginning of the project, not subject to varying during the construction?
So that's a very good point. So
That's a big one, I think.
yeah, so once we get to that April 30th MSBA Board of Directors meeting where they vote to approve the project scope and budget agreement, that sets the maximum MSBA reimbursement. And so this community seems very focused on controlling the project costs, not letting it get out of control. Maybe another community is not so focused on that, and they may add in scope during the course of the project, and the MSBA will say, that's not part of our agreement. We're not contributing to that. You can still do it, but you have to pay for it. And so then at the end of the day, 2-3 years later, you do that calculation, the effective, what did we get? What was our effective reimbursement calculation? You'll find that it's less. But the design team, the OPM team, and I'm confident the building committee as well, we're going to be looking to maximize that effective reimbursement rate. Other questions or comments? Come on up.
Hello, my name is Frank. I'm a parent of students here at Fallbrook, so I have a few questions. This is the first time I attend this meeting, so I don't know if this is the right day for the questions, so I apologize if it's not. So I kind of want to go back to like why we are actually building a new school. Is it because the school is just too old, or is it because we're increasing capacity? And if we're increasing capacity, how do we ensure and make sure that we can fulfill what we need for the school zone, and then also for the future, how do we make sure that we keep up with the intended capacity? And then I also have another question, but more on the architecture side and design. See, we are adding a second floor to the school, and I think as of right now, most of the school is reachable without going up the stairs. So what do we do in terms of accessibility and being able to go on the second floor for students with moderate disabilities?
All great questions. All right, so for the first one, Daniel, I actually had a slide, and it's an MDS slide, but it's after the thank you slide. So, yeah, keep going. I think you're going. No, you're going the wrong way. Go the other way. We have a slide that's well hidden.
Oh, it's going back.
Yes. No problem. All right, while he's looking for that, I'll speak to part 2, which is the enrollment. And so before this team was even assembled, the MSBA and the district agreed to a design enrollment of 610 students. Now, that is actually fewer than what you have right now. However, what you've got right now, Jeff, what is it like? 670 students. Well, you've got 670 students squeezed into, I think it's like 85,000 gross square feet, 90,000 gross square feet, somewhere around that range.
Our gross square feet is 100. Oh,
No, in this one, existing.
It's like 75.
So 75,000 gross square feet, you've got 670 students in it. The new building will have 105,000 gross square feet, so like 40% larger. And even though it's got that design enrollment of 610, you're just going to have a lot more space, which is going to be room to grow, more classrooms. So we're confident that, and the MSBA is confident that the new building will not only meet the needs of the community now, but also have some flexibility built in for future increases in enrollment. All right, so now, yes, this is it, thank you. Daniel or Narita or Erica, do you want to speak to this? These are the why we need a new school.
So for the why, one of the more important ones is actually it's too small for the enrollment. As Greg mentioned, it's 75,000 square feet. And by modern MSBA standards, that's way too small for the existing population. So most schools, or all modern schools, are much larger. And so that's really one of the key things. The other one is that, actually there's several. One is the building systems. They put in new boilers, I think it was 2006 or 2012, I forget which one, but outside of the new buildings, built boilers, all the other mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems are over 60 years old, and basically all of them have reached the end of their useful life. Well, actually, decades ago they hit their useful life, and now it's Band-Aids trying to extend the life. So the cost to put in all new systems in this old building would be significant. The other thing is that this building is not fully accessible. Even though there's some ramps and whatnot, if you look by modern accessibility standards, it's basically non-compliant. The doorways, the hardware is wrong, the space reaches of doors and other openings way too small. So that again would take a completely almost gut renovation to bring this building up to modern standards. And then finally, another piece is that it doesn't have sprinklers. Most modern buildings of this size would be completely fire protected, and that's another piece. So if you start to add all these pieces up, and there are others, it basically means that this building has, even though it's great and it's beloved, it's really hit the end of its life cycle. And that's sort of what's pushed us to a new building.
And then the last part was how are the students going to get to the second floor?
Exactly. So on the second floor, we do have, there is an elevator so that people can easily access the second floor. But we also, beyond the elevator, we are making the stairways very wide and generous and well lit, so that if you don't need to take an elevator, but you still have concerns, that the stairways would be very generous as well. But it does boil down to that we are including an elevator to go from 1 to 2.
All right. Any other questions, comments? And if there are some things that you, one second, if there are some things that you don't want to talk about in front of the group, the design team and in my office will hang out afterwards, so you can, once we close the meeting, you can come on up and we can talk about whatever you like. Go ahead.
Yeah. Not really a question, more of an observation. Was there any discussion in putting the plan together on flat roofs? I mean, we've had trouble, and I think the mayor would agree, over the years with just about every building we built with a flat roof. Been any discussion about not having a flat roof?
Well, the design team can talk. There's a mixture of roofs on this project.
Right, I know
Yeah.
it wasn't all flat, but there were
Yes.
majority, I think, was.
So part of the fun of modern buildings is where do we put the mechanical units that support our buildings, right? So some of these units, as you probably have seen in the city, are quite large, and many of them have to be put on the roof. There's very little site left after we put the building in until this building is demolished. So adding any kind of mechanical system on the ground level is difficult. So you can sort of see there are some, a lot of the flat roofs are related to locations of mechanical units. And we were actually hoping to have more sloped roofs, easier, sheds the water and the snow much easier. but that was our mechanical engineer. We're still working through it, so I hear your point, and I completely agree. Trying to minimize, how many leaks you have to deal with once you have the building open is very important. So.
And also, modern day roofing is much more dependable, much more reliable, much more long lasting than previous roofing technologies. I think it's commonly 25-year warranties on roofs. And so you'll get a brand new roof on the new building, and it will be warranted for a long period of time.
And we can look at longer warranties too. There's thicker membranes that will last 30 years, and they'll fix it.
Anything else? Come on.
Do we get solar panels on the roofs?
Great question. The building will be designed and constructed to be solar ready. So there will be portions of the roof that are designated, this is where solar panels could go. There'll be space in the building for the inverters to convert it from DC to AC. And there'll be, I believe, conduits or pathways to go from where your solar panels can go on the roof down to those inverter rooms. But what's commonly done on schools, and what we recommend for this one as well, is that the solar panels get procured after the project is done. There are programs available that will that help keep the cost down, and doing so ensures that you're also going to get the latest and greatest technology. Once that building's out, you're not purchasing it in 2027 to have it, its first day of operation in 2029. So for all these reasons and probably others, most schools choose to have PV photovoltaic panels installed at the very end of the project.
And then the other question I have is on the construction phase and the school operation. So I see that it's almost intended to kind of like build the school behind this current one to keep this one fully open. Will that be the case that the constructions happening in the back will not be happening, affecting the school operations? And then what of the noise pollution, the in and outs of the construction equipment and construction workers? Or will the constructions be focused on after schools or during vacations and things like that?
Also great questions, man. We have some slides for those too. Daniel, would you please go to that after the thank you slide again? So construction on occupied sites is what we see all over the Commonwealth now. Essentially, as a state, we've used up all of the available plots of land that are big enough for a school. And so the typical routine is what we're doing here, which is build new next to, either on a field or next to your school, tear down the old one, and then fix up the site. It's kind of like that 3 steps. And so we've got all of these, so you're not going to be the first district to deal with that. And so we have a whole series of responsible practices. Safety and logistics. So part of that will be determining before construction, how workers, how materials are going to access the site, and keeping that separate from the students in the school drop-off. Walking paths, having a security fence all the way around, managing vibration. So construction, especially when you're doing foundation and ground improvements, there's a lot of vibrations, and so we'll monitor that all around the perimeter of the site. We will, there's no buildings immediately adjacent aside from this one that are remaining, so we don't have to worry too much about making cracks, but we'll monitor that, we'll manage it, we'll put limits in the specifications. Workers being separate is best. We want to keep the construction teams separate from the educational teams. So that'll be a main focus. Dust mitigation during construction. We'll have in the contract documents that the contractor has to keep the dust down, and there are different techniques they can use for that, either spraying water when they're doing work, or there's dry products they can put on, calcium silicate, I think, that they sprinkle on the dirt to keep it from turning into airborne dust. Coordinating with the school, so lots of communication. You know, what's going on the construction site, what's going on at the school. You got MCAS testing, okay, we'll see what they can do to keep the noise down. Noise mitigation, managing those days that construction is a noisy operation, but managing that noise, making sure that that noise is only during the hours that the city allows it. It's probably like 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. That will also be in the specifications, so the contractor is not working at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. And actually, can you go to the next slide? So this is a different project, but the strategy there was, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a red line that goes around the whole site, and so you encapsulate the entire construction area. You have several gates that allow entrance and exit, and that's how you manage a site. So if you go to the next slide, and this is what it looks like. So construction, temporary fencing, all the way around the site with a screen, which is they call it an acoustical screen. The idea is I don't know how much noise it actually blocks, but the idea is it's supposed to send noise vibrations, you know, upward versus right out into the abutting properties, which would be the school. And then check, there might be one more slide.
Construction costs.
Okay. So, short answer from a long answer is that it's been done before. There are techniques. We will do everything in our power to keep the school as minimally impacted as possible. Will there be some pain points? Yes. Specifically when the construction site gets set up, there will be a portion of the parking lot that's right now accessible that won't be accessible. So we'll work with the school and the district to strategize ways to minimize that disruption. Other question? Anything that you guys want to add? Okay. So me going on and on for 5 minutes is enough. All right. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? All right. As I said before, we've got another meeting in March 18th. Hope you can make it. Please check on the website. Tell your friends. Spread the word. We will stay up here to answer any questions or engage in conversation if you'd like. And the last thing we need to do is we need to close out the building committee meeting, which is going on. So building committee members.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jennifer. We'll do a show of hands. All in favor? All opposed? Abstentions? All right, the meeting is adjourned. 6:56. Thank you all.
Okay,